When it comes to adversity and challenges and setbacks, what a lot of people do, Nathan, they live in their little kumbaya world like nothing bad is going to happen. And then when adversity hits, it's like crisis mode. And now they're trying to deal with it. Here's the reality. You're an entrepreneur. The storm is coming. The storm in your life is coming. It might be a family storm, spiritual storm, a health storm, a business storm, financial storm, a relationship storm. The storm is coming. That's just life. The nice thing about storms is when they're done, the clouds part and the sky is blue. The only question is, when that next storm comes, how big is your boat? How big is your mental boat? How big is your financial boat? How big is your spiritual boat? So work on yourself now. Don't bury your head in the sand. Don't be one of these people that just aren't ready for the next big challenge. So anticipate what are some challenges that you're going to have to face.
So, Steve, I know as a leader in this business and everything like that, there are limits to where we can assess ourselves, and there is some things that we know we are good at, but I have a question for you. Like, what qualities do you think leaders today lack the most?
That's a great question. Before I answer that question, why don't I ask you, what do you think? What do you think those things are? Because I have some thoughts about it, obviously, but what are some things you think leaders lack?
I see from my perspective, sometimes it's the ability to distribute their time is one area.
Okay. You know what? That's yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that. I think for me, Lisa, like there's a bunch of things, right? Like up and coming leaders, there's so many things to work on. But I think if I had to really think of all the people that I've mentored in my career and all the leaders that I've seen kind of come through the business, I think one of the biggest challenges that up and coming leaders have is vision. Because you really have to break it down. What is a leader? Right? What's your definition of a leader? And my definition of a leader is somebody who knows where they're going, right? Somebody who knows where they're going, who's leading the way, who's lighting the path, who's even a little bit further down the path than somebody who's following them. But I think a lot of times as leaders, we forget that we are the visionary for our team, right? Because let's be honest, like a lot of people in our society, we're struggling sometimes at home, sometimes we're struggling financially, sometimes early on we're struggling in business. And we forget that chances are, right, we're scared, but we're the least scared of anybody on our team. We're not making enough money, but we're making more money than anybody on our team. So if we're not constantly, building our vision and talking about our vision, then it becomes hard sometimes for people to follow, right? And as a leader, by definition, you need followers, right? So we can't act like a follower and expect to be a leader. So I think vision's the big thing. And then other than vision, I think consistency is big too. I think a lot of agents and a lot of people think that being a leader is, they have to wait till they're this unbelievable example of success and they have to be way further down the road. But honestly, like I want to follow somebody that knows where they're going and who's consistent, right? Shows up every day like they're supposed to, brings the same energy every day. You always know what you're going to get, right? They're not like a box of chocolates where today that's a little spicy and today that's a little sweet. So I think having a clear vision of where you're going and being consistent, and by vision too, like even at a marketing director, it's, hey, Lisa, listen, just before I bring you onto my team, let me tell you a bit about our team. Okay, let me tell you about where our team is going, okay? In the next 6 months, we have a game plan to yada, yada, yada. By the end of the year, we have a plan to help 50 families, right? How do you see yourself fitting into that? So having a vision for your life, your business, and always speaking about it, and then being consistent with your energy, your attitude, your activity, your communication. So I think those are a couple of things that are really on the top of my mind when I think about what leaders lack. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely, it does.
And then I think the time management, to your point, if you don't have a vision and you're not clear on where you want to go and you're not consistent, then you're going to be spending time in all the wrong areas. And there's more than enough time. Like, I have a huge team, but I have more than enough time to spend with all my leaders that are ready and up and coming. That just means I can't be spending time on other things, right? So prioritizing that. Great question.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you talk about leaders and how it's something that you stay consistent with. And another thing that leaders are constantly doing, they're on a journey of self-development and self-rediscovery in some cases. So my question is, what leadership qualities are you still trying to improve?
All of them. I'm trying to improve all my leadership qualities. You go through different phases as a leader, right? The person I was trying to become 10, 15 years ago was a different version of who I needed to become a year ago to 6 months ago to now. I'm continuously working on things like expanding my capacity to deal with new situations. As a leader, let's just 1 out of 10. If you're a level 7 leader, right? You're a level 7 leader, and I'm not tying that to anything, but a 7 out of 10 leadership, you can handle problems that are 7 and down. If I want to build a bigger business, I need to learn how to handle bigger capacity problems. Like when you first start in the business and your first client cancels, it's like you think you're going to die. You literally, your heart stops. You're like, right? Your leader finds you in the corner. You got a paper bag. And then you mature a bit and you grow, your capacity grows. And then you have a teammate that quits. And then you think you're having heart failure because your heart is broken. And then you have one of your top leaders leave you. And then you have maybe one of your senior brokers leave you at some point. So your capacity to handle problems increases. I think for me, I'm always continuously working on my patience. My empathy has been a big one, Lisa. I think that when you're a run and gun leader and you have high expectations of yourself and you hold high expectations of the team, sometimes we can forget that everybody has their own journey. Everybody's here for their own reasons. So I think specifically the last year and a half, 2 years, I've really just started to change my mindset around as long as people are here to fulfill their goals and as long as they're on a path to get what they want, and I can help them with that, then I'm okay with that. Not everybody has to come in here and make $200,000-$300,000 a year. Not everybody needs to come into this business and be a leader of leaders. There's a lot of people that want to come in here and quit their job, replace their full-time income, be in a great environment, be around great people, and they're ambassadors for the brand, and they're loyal to the team, and they'll be here for the next 20, 30 years. And I think my patience and my space for those people like 5, 6, 7 years ago was limited. And now I'm really, really learning to appreciate that, because as long as you're getting out of this business what you want and what you're here for, I'm okay with that. And I really am okay with that, because that means you're happy. And at the end of the day, people's happiness is my main priority. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. Yeah, everybody has their why.
Yeah. Yeah, and what makes a team? What makes a team is not everybody wanting the same thing. Look, a team, yeah, we want to win a championship as a team, right? And we're a championship team, but you're a big part of that. And you may not feel like you're a part of that, but you are a big part of that, right? You're putting in the time, you're fighting for your promotion, you're helping families, right? Your numbers matter. When we become a senior executive team here in a few months, it's because Lisa Paul is fighting for her marketing director promotion. So as a team, we will win, but as individuals, we're all here for our own journey. And I really encourage all my leaders to really embrace that. You can't be pounding on everybody all the time to be a 1%er, right? A great team is made up of a lot of different kinds of people that are ready to run, that aren't ready to run. But as long as everybody's there for the right reasons, there to help people, there's going to be enough people who figure it out to really get the team over the hump. So, yeah.
So another thing too, Steve, like in the position where you are, you're a mentor to so many people. Mm-hmm. And leaders typically have multiple mentors in their professional and personal life. And I'm wondering, like, who are the mentors that have had the greatest impact on you? What advice would you give to someone searching for a mentor that you wish you would have received?
I don't know that there's anything different that I wish I would have received. I think that we all have our own path. I think that for us to look back and wish that we had different things, I think is a slippery slope. But I look back at my life, I go way back to the beginning, and I think my dad was my best example of how I wanted to live, and how I wanted to be and how I wanted to turn out. He mentored me by working super hard. My dad is even today, right? He's supposed to be retired. He's not retired. He's if not the hardest working person that I'd ever met. Always there when I needed him. Didn't baby me, right? Firm but fair. You work till the job gets done. You don't make excuses. And, that to me was such a strong foundation. I mean, you think about those years that I was living at home and how important that was. Obviously, my mom was a huge part of my life too. I'm a boy, so mama's boys it's a real thing. But I think my dad was just such a great example. And when I think about how I want to lead my son, I think of my dad, and I'm like, hey, how is my dad to me? Because I love that. And not everybody has that, but you asked the question. He was the originator. And then I think in business, Lisa, I mean, I've had a bunch of different mentors. I think a lot of times we think a mentor is somebody that we need to meet with every week, and they're calling me every day, and my mentor, I have to text my mentor accountability every day. Well, there might be a season where that's true, but for me, I've been mentored by afar. There's been a lot of people in our company, in our industry, even outside of our industry, through things like the Arte Syndicate and other leaders in business, where I listen to their podcasts, I'm on their social media. Maybe from time to time, I get a phone call with them. But I just knew early on that I could make people my mentor with all the resources that they put out. So I like to think of myself as have been mentored by guys like Annie Frisella and Tom Bilyeu, and of course, Ed Milet, who I have a close relationship with, but there's so many more. So I think the advice I would give people is that if you want to be mentored, you have to be ready to be mentored. You have to be ready to receive the information. A lot of people, they want mentorship, but they're not ready to receive the message. They're not ready. They don't want to hear it. So yeah, you got to be ready. You have to know what you want, and then you have to go and get it. And it's not just going to be a phone call every week all the time. You can be mentored through podcasts. You can be mentored through YouTube. Of course, you do need some direct mentorship, I believe. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? You have to ask. You have to ask for time. Hey, what would it take for me to be mentored by you? What would it take for me to get 30 minutes of your time per month? What would you need to see from me to spend more time with you? That make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And you do need to be prepared to hear those things that you don't want to hear, right? You need those delicate course corrections and sometimes not so delicate course corrections.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, where's my blind spots? That's a pretty heavy question, right? So I think that, so that's my perspective on mentorship.
So when it comes to, like days when I'm not, like when you're not feeling as energetic as days before, like how do you keep your energy high in your team and, constantly being able to pour into your team members, especially when you don't feel like it?
Yeah. Wow, that's a really good question. I hardly ever get asked that question. But I think it's a really important one. So there's a couple thoughts on that. In order to answer that question, I want to back it up to the days that you're feeling really well. So I don't know what the ratio is, Tasmia, but let's just use a ratio of like 7 out of 10 days I'm feeling really good. And let's say 3 out of 10 or 2 out of 10, it's one of those days where it feels like a grind. It's a grind and it's just, maybe it's an administrative nightmare or there's a team thing going on you're trying to deal with. So here's the first thing. When you're feeling really well, you have to triple down on everything that needs to happen. When you're feeling good, like when I'm feeling good, Tasmia, I am literally on the phone as late as I can. Obviously, like after my kids are upstairs after dinner, I'm making calls. I tuck the kids in, I'm making calls. So lots of communication, lots of energy, lots of videos on your chat, lots of FaceTimes, lots of building people up. When you're fired up, you got to go all in to overcompensate for the days where maybe you're not pouring in to the team as much. In fact, maybe 1 out of 10 days, you're like making withdrawals from the team where you're relying on some of their energy to keep you going. See, everyone thinks as the leader, you're fired up all the time and you wake up and you're like, whoa, let's go. But in reality, as the leader, there's some heavy days. There's some tough conversations. There's people quitting. There's chargebacks. Your best people are your best people are being affected by things in their life. And those days, you just do the best to hang on. So the days that I'm challenged, okay, I have a secret formula. So I do what I can. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the days that I'm feeling down and the days that aren't great days, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I do everything. I don't hit all my habits. I don't make all the calls. I don't reach out to all the people. But here's what I do. When I'm not feeling good, Tasmia, I make a list of like 3 or 4 people in my team that are the most excited, that are the most on fire. And for you, if there's not that many in your team, then you reach out to who's on fire in Z's team. Who's in fire on Nabi's team? Who's on fire on Wednesday night training who I don't really know? I make a list of those 3 or 4 people, and guess what I do? I call them. And I just call them up. And I don't tell them what's going on. I just call them. And I say, hey, let's just pick somebody. I'll be like, hey, Audrey, how you doing? Good. Man, you're on fire. What are you excited about right now? And they just go off. Man, I'm so fired up and this is happening and licenses are coming on. And I just sit there and I listen and I absorb their energy, click. And then I call the next person on fire. Hey, I saw your biggest paycheck. Like, great job. Like, what's working really well for you right now? Oh my gosh, I'm helping families. I have this new referral script, right? And then you call the next person. So I'm taking withdrawals from excited people. I'm not bringing them down. They don't have any idea what's going on in my personal life. I'm just like, man, that's awesome. I just want to let you know that I'm watching you and I'm really proud of you. Does that make sense? So you have to be a master at filling your tank. If you want to be the leader, you have to recognize that nobody's coming to fill your tank. Yes, you got one of the greatest leaders in our company, and he's going to do everything that he can to pour into you. I'm going to do everything I can to pour into you. But when he's busy and I'm away or I'm busy, I'm sick or we're not around and it's just you and your thoughts, it's on you to pull yourself together. And what I do, I don't let anybody know what's going on. I reach out to people that are way more fired up than me and I just absorb all their energy. And that's how I get through my tough days.
Okay, that's a really good way of looking at it. There are some awesome tips that I just took a note of. So with that being said, there's a follow-up question to that question. Obviously, like that all goes down with the mindset as well. Mm-hmm. So what do you do on the days when you don't feel like going to the gym, when you don't feel like doing the things that you want to do, that you have to do? What is like your routine kind of like that kind of allows you stay fired up or allows you to be the best that you are?
Yeah. I'll tell you what old Steve used to do. Old Steve used to wake up in the morning and run his day based on how he felt. And if I didn't feel good, I wouldn't go to the gym. If I didn't feel good, I wouldn't show up on time. If I didn't feel good, I wouldn't do what I needed to do. So here's the most important thing when we're not feeling good. You cannot change your routine. You have to go to the gym. See, that's what I always say. You have to pre-plan your day the night before. A big part of that is because you don't know. You might wake up in the morning, Tasmia, and you might feel like a bag of crap, pardon my language. You might get a text message from your teammate. You might get a chargeback from your client. And if you're deciding in that moment, see, when we make decisions that are emotional, we tend to make the bad decisions. So rule number one is you have to keep the framework alive. You still got to get up at the same time. You still got to go to the gym at the same time you said you were going to go. And you still got to get to the office at the same time you were going to get to the office. Now, with that said, are you going to push? Is it going to be the best workout of the year? Probably not. Are you going to make the 30 calls you committed to? Or are you going to like settle with 15 to 20? Sometimes you settle with 15 to 20. But you get your ass up out of bed. You get to the gym. You get to the office. You get in the environment, and then within that, maybe you're operating at 70, 80% capacity, but you cannot change the routine. You cannot compromise the routine because that's what's going to keep you in the game. That's what's going to keep you alive, right? When I had 8 feet of my bowel taken out, and that next year I had no confidence, no self-esteem. I was a mess. But I always got to the office at the same time. And I knew if I could just get there and get in the environment and follow my routine, that eventually the consistency would start to build my confidence. But when you take away the consistency when you're feeling down, now you have the guilt. Now not only are you down, you feel bad about it. Oh, I didn't miss the workout again. And I didn't show up to the office. And oh my God. And now that's a ball of insecurity that's going to be happening from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess it's the routine.
You cannot compromise your routine. You can't. I'll bend for this, bend for that. My routine is a non-negotiable. I'll show up to the gym with one eye open, stomach pain, on painkillers, and just literally will myself through any kind of workout if I have to, rather than not go to the gym, because it's a win getting there. I need some wins, especially on down days.
Okay, awesome. And my second question.
All right.
So when you are when you first started, when everyone first starts, they have a market, but then eventually they run out of a market. For example, when you're face to face with a new prospect, what are some top core prospecting tips that you can give to a new individual who don't have a huge market and they are new, but they still want to build a market? How can you build a form of trust and a rapport with a prospect instantly, warm them up to the idea of working with you? And how do you kind of stay building a warm market when you run out of a market? What do you do to keep filling your pipe?
Well, there's 2 buckets of prospects. So bucket 1 is somebody who you meet along the way that you'll never see again. Okay, so you're on the way to a girls' weekend. You're passing through a small town, and you meet somebody who you really connect with. Okay, that's a different conversation / relationship with somebody who you're slow cooker. You're getting to know them. They're in your neighborhood. You're meeting them for the first time. You'll see them again. Does that make sense? So if it's somebody who you're going to meet, I don't like to use the word quick hit, but if it's somebody who you're going to quickly get to know, you're going to quickly going to connect with, you're not going to build trust, lifelong trust in 30 seconds. So the key is to be interested, not interesting. Everybody who wants to prospect focuses on being super interesting. They want to make themselves sound interesting and their business interesting and everything's so interesting. But what about them? Be interested in them. Just get really good at connecting. How do you connect with people? Ask them about themselves. Like genuinely, how long have you lived here for? How long you've worked here for long? Do you have a family in the area? Oh, no way. Awesome. You have kids? Super cool. Good. Great. Connect, right? Do you go to school for this? Right? Is it always this nice outside? No way. That's so awesome. I've actually never been here before. Cool. Connect. Hey, listen, you know what? I'm just on my way out of town. My company's expanding and we're looking for people. I have no idea if you'd be a fit, but I can tell Like, you're obviously a good person. You got some goals, you got some reasons, right? If you're not locked into what you're doing and you keep your options open, I'd love to grab your number and connect. So the way you connect is you just ask them, just really connect. Because there's some times where I really try and connect, Tasmia, and I'm not going to talk to them about my business. Priority number one is to connect, especially on somebody that you're never going to see again. Connect. You don't hit everybody, but connect with everybody. Ask them a bunch of questions. Get to know them. Think about how many people they see in a day. Nobody's asking about them. Where does your kids go to school? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. But you care, even for a moment. That's rule one. Rule two is when you're getting to know somebody, same thing, right? If it's somebody who I always ask my team, who are you outside of WFG? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? So what environments are you in outside of this company where you are somebody? Let's say you play basketball Friday nights with the girls or the guys for 3 hours. Who are you? Well, in that group, I'm a part of the team. I'm a good person. I'm positive. Great. So you're a positive, good person in the basketball environment. What else do you do? I volunteer on Tuesdays. Great. Who are you in that volunteer group? Well, again, I'm positive. I'm forward thinking. I'm good. So you got to be somebody in a different environment, and then you build relationship. Then you build trust, and then eventually, if it's a fit, you talk to them about what you do. So key is getting good at connecting with people, asking questions, being interested in them. If it's somebody you're never going to see again, and then if it's somebody who you're gonna connect with long term, make sure you're somebody in a different environment. Like I have kids, so one kid's in hockey, one kid's in soccer, one this. I'm part of that. So I am somebody in 5 or 6 environments outside of this business just because of my life.
Some major questions I had was, one is just about leadership, because I think that's a big aspect of this business that most people don't really think about.
Yeah,
you have to be a great leader. So I wanted to ask you specifically what are some strategies that you worked on from the beginning of your career till now that really helped you become a better leader to your team, to agents, just a leader in general, honestly?
Yeah, I think honestly, brother, I think that's the $1 million question. I would say that's the most asked question that I get from up and coming people is how to work on becoming a better leader. Yeah. So there's a couple things, and I want to back it up to answer that question. The best leaders are first the best followers. Okay. Everybody wants to lead, but very few want to follow. So start with becoming the best follower that you can. You have a great leader. You're on a great team. You're in a great business. You're in the best company. There's some people that you can lean into, right? How do you become a great follower? You become a flag carrier for your leader. You become you're the messenger for the system. You're the best communicator. You're the first to volunteer. You're the first to see your leader. Your leader is one of those guys for me, right? Great communicator, always active on the chats, always a flag carrier for the brand. So that's the first step, Nathan, that most people miss. Everybody wants to learn how to be a leader, but first you got to work on being a great follower. And one of the reasons you're on this call is because, you've obviously demonstrated a lot of team qualities, but I didn't want to start without shining light on that.
Yeah, for sure.
The next is the myth that people have in their brains that they need to be this great version of themselves, be making a ton of money to lead people. The reality is this: as you're up and coming, as you're becoming a bigger leader, there's really only 2 things that you owe people. Do you know what those things are?
I'm pretty sure it's a good example in environment, no?
That's it. So you owe your people a great environment and a great example. So the great environment part, that's something that we have as a team. So let's talk about the example. What you need to remember is that our business, it's a volunteer army. None of your teammates, that's why it's the greatest business in the world, because when we get to a convention and there's 600 or 700 people there, nobody's being paid to be there. When we get on a call and there's 200 people on that call, they're all there because they want to be there. Any CEO can lead a team of 200 people if they're all on salary, paid to be on that Zoom call. You're not leading that team. That team is there because if they don't show up, they're going to get fired. you're leading a volunteer army. So you're going to become the best kind of leader, and you're going to learn the most about leadership because you can't force people to be there. So you're going to learn to lead that volunteer army. So you're leading people, Nathan, that are thinking about every day. They're thinking about, can I do this? Can it work? Am I in the right business? Do I want to get licensed? You're constantly, we're in the people business, and people are constantly thinking, they're trying to talk themselves out of everything. Okay. So what people need from you as an up and coming leader is they need consistency. Okay. I don't know what your family life was like growing up, but I had a great example in my family of this, and a lot of people didn't. You got to be consistent as a parent. You got to show up, and you got to be there for your kids. If don't show up and you're not there for your kids, what happens to your kids? There becomes uncertainty. They become unsure. It can create anxiety. So this thing to start with, while you're a great follower, is you got to be super consistent. You got to show up to everything. You have to show up the same way. You can't show up one day fired up and the other day it's like poor me, Nathan, version of Nathan. You got to be consistent. You got to be fired up. If anything's going on, you got to talk just to your leader about it. You never vent down to your team. So consistency is what they're looking for, because if a team shows up one day and a leader seems frustrated, and one of those people was already thinking about quitting, or their dad told them they should quit, and then they show up to that meeting, and that was the meeting that they needed to get over the hump, and you don't show up like you need to, or you're 2 minutes late, or you're on with your camera off, guess what's going to happen? It's going to plant a seed of doubt. Because there's seeds of doubt in human brains, you as a leader can't contribute at all to any uncertainty within them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
So when you can create that certainty with your team, that's the first step at becoming a leader. And then from there, you're vulnerable, right? You're talking about, hey, I'm on my leadership journey, but you're giving them a great example. You're 2 steps ahead. You're constantly reaching out to your leadership to talk about challenges and how to overcome things. And then lastly is you're really filling your tank, right? When you start to become a leader, you're going to have challenges. And if you look at your team like it's all drama, it's hard, it's leading people is difficult, then you're not going to be fired up about it. But if you're constantly filling your tank, you're constantly getting filled from Nabby, constantly getting filled from me, constantly energizing yourself, you're going to be able to pass some of that down to your team, and you're not going to see all the challenges as challenges. You're going to see a lot of them as opportunities. So you got to keep your head straight that way.
So this is a big one. So I think for myself, like one thing I've been telling people is like, once you become an entrepreneur, it's definitely important it is really important to work on yourself, like your mindset. You want to make sure everything's healthy up top to keep you going. And I was going to say for yourself, like over the years, like when it's come to like adversity, trials, like things that come up, like obstacles you have to go over. What is some advice that you'd give to me, like when it comes to making sure that you can keep that motivation and also keep that momentum to keep going?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. So look, when it comes to adversity and challenges and setbacks, what a lot of people do, Nathan, is they live in their little kumbaya world, like nothing bad is going to happen. And then when adversity hits, it's like crisis mode, and now they're trying to deal with it. So here's the first thing that I would say. You need to prepare for setbacks. Here's the reality. You're an entrepreneur. The storm is coming. The storm in your life is coming. It might be a family storm, spiritual storm, a health storm, a business storm, financial storm, a relationship storm. The storm is coming. That's just life. It's storm to storm, storm to storm. The nice thing about storms is when they're done, the clouds part and the sky is blue. You need to anticipate, okay? The only question is when that next storm comes, how big is your boat? How big is your mental boat? How big is your financial boat? How big is your spiritual boat? So work on yourself now. Don't bury your head in the sand. Don't be one of these people that just aren't ready for the next big challenge. So anticipate what are some challenges that you're going to have to face. Go talk to some leaders. Hey, Nabby, what are some challenges that I'm going to be facing in the next year? What are some challenges that you face between MD and senior broker that I need to prepare for? And go prepare for them. So what did I do to prepare for them? Well, I asked my mentors what those challenges are going to be, and they help explain to me how I dealt with them before they happened. The other thing is I specifically sought out books to work on my mindset. So for about a year and a half, bro, I only listened to audiobooks about Navy SEALs going to war. I was obsessed. So I would listen to books about how to become a Navy SEAL. Then I would study Hell Week, what they have to go through. I even made some friends that are Navy SEALs, and I asked them what it was like. Then I watched there's a YouTube series. It's like 6 episodes, Underwater Buds Training. I think it's like Underwater Buds Class 2, 3, 4 or something. 6 series on it. And then I read stories of like people that during the war ended up on a ship and in the middle of the ocean. And I would read books and listen to audiobooks about people that went through extreme situations. David Goggins' book. And what it did is it started to change my mindset, because you have to prepare your mind, right? Because when something happens and there's adversity that hits, your brain is going to react one of two ways. Like, is this a massive deal? Oh my God, it's happening again. Or are you like, all right, here it comes. All right, it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to get through it. So start to toughen up now. Start to read the books now. Off camera, I can give you a couple recommendations that go through my phone, but I love like Navy SEAL books. I love, The Lone Survivor. Even before the movie came out, I crushed that book like 3 times, right? Because have you seen that movie?
Lone Survivor?
Yeah. Mark Wahlberg?
Oh, no, I've heard of it. No,
Yeah, it's a true story of Navy SEALs going into Afghanistan, and it's insane. Actually, Marcus Luttrell, the guy in the movie, I saw him speak at a few events, and I got to shake his hand. And I read the book about Robert O'Neill killing Osama bin Laden and what it took to like take down. Like I put myself. See, you change your mindset by the books you read and the people you hang around. So if you need to work on mental toughness, increasing your capacity, figuring out how to get your mindset for the next adversity, you got to put some things in your brain to put things in perspective. So when something happens to you, you're like, oh, that's not that big of a deal compared to what these guys had to go through, right? You don't want to be a pansy flower. You don't want to be soft when something happens and you can't handle it.
First one was, how do you keep organized and committed to your dreams and goals in regards to just your daily routines, checklists, your spirituality, and your fitness?
Ooh, that's a good question. Do you have something that you do right now that works, or is
I think that's why I'm trying to figure out how to set it up, because like I said, I've recently put my full-time job into a back burner so I can put WFG first, and I'm really having that hard time with my routine.
So I think back to a saying that my mentor told me a long time ago, because everybody always talks about habits. Yeah. But he said this to me a long time ago. He said, Steve, your habits and your behaviors are a reflection of the standard that you set for your life. You ever notice, like, I'm on a fitness journey, and you ever notice like I had to basically get to rock bottom for what that was for me before I turned my fitness journey around. We've all heard these stories of like in a relationship, we have to we let things go like right to the brink, and then we get therapy, or we have a heart condition and we literally have to be told by the doctor, hey, if you don't eat better, your heart's going to explode. So the first thing I'll say is, before I get into this, is you really got to figure out what your standard is. Because I can tell you the habits and all this stuff till the cows come home, but if you don't have purpose, if you're not hungry, if you don't have like a burning desire to make some growth in an area, and I don't believe that it's always going to be faith, family, fitness, fun, all at the same time. Like, you're going to be in seasons. So maybe right now you need to be in a season of like making money and financial stress being relieved. But at the same time, you want to go for a walk every day to make sure that your fitness is at least where it needs to be. There's some other people that aren't in the business that want to be professional bodybuilders. So they're in the season of like maybe making no money and like scraping by, but they're at the gym 5 hours a day. So you got to figure out like, what's your standard? Like, what's your standard for the amount of money that you want to make? What's your standard right now for your health? And I don't want you to like try and be full-time and go to the Olympics for marathon running. I want you to go all in, obviously here, earn money and figure out what does your health need to look like? What does your spirituality need to look like? And then what I would say is I have 2 rules. So once that's taken care of, that's the most important part. 2 rules. Rule number 1 is everything goes in the calendar. And rule number 2 is you do everything in your calendar. You know, I had a gal right before you, she asked me, what do you do on the days where you're not feeling great, you're not feeling down? And I said, well, let's just assume that, 2 out of 10 days that happens. The days where I wake up and I don't feel like going to the gym, or the days that I wake up and I don't feel like being in the office at a certain time, here's the rule. No matter what, I show up. You have to show up, Kalina. You have to show up. Now, does it mean that you show up and you're at 100% capacity all the time? No, but you have to show up. So what I do is I do this. So I have my purpose. I have my game plan. Like let's say I want to become an associate. That's my 30-day plan. Then I break it down per week, and then I break it down per day. And every single day, the night before, I pre-plan my day. So right that window where the kids are tucked in and it's just kind of like ready to go to bed, I sit down for 10, 15 minutes. I open up my accountability tracker or my day timer, and I go, okay, what does my day look like tomorrow? And I kind of visualize, okay, drive time, kids, this and that, okay? And then I make a list of what are the 5 things that I have to do tomorrow to have a successful day. And when you're full-time, I'm going to challenge you, do all the difficult things before noon. You got to start your day with all the hard things. I recommend, now I'm not your fitness coach, but I recommend getting your fitness things out of the way. If you're like me and some days you don't want to go to the gym, I do my gym first thing, because if I don't work out first thing and I leave it to the afternoon, I mostly don't go. Making phone calls. Nobody loves making phone calls. Get it done in the morning. All the hard things. Right? All the things that are going to put you out of your comfort zone, get done before noon. Because once noon hits, life happens. Kids call home, they're sick, you got to pick them up from school. Grandma's sick, right? Your husband's not feeling well. Hits the fan, pardon my language. It hits the fan after noon. If you can get all the difficult things done before noon, then no matter what happens, you've had a decent day. So pre-plan your day. What are the 3 to 5 things you have to get done in the morning? I got to book 3 appointments. I got to make 4 calls. I got to, whatever. Most people do. They don't pre-plan what time they're going to be at the office. So they're there at 9 a.m. one day, 9:30, 10:15, 8:30. So you got to start your day. I don't care what time you start your day. You got to start your day at the time you said you were the night before. Not how you feel, but what you said you're going to do. Then you're going to do those 3 or 4 things that you need to do to keep you on track for associate. And then in the afternoon, obviously, maybe you have a couple meetings, right? You're making more calls, you're following up on business, you're doing all the things that you still need to do, but you've already had a smoking day between 8 a.m. and noon.
What things do you do to improve yourself as a leader?
What things do I do to improve myself as a leader? Well, there's a bunch of things. I think one of the most difficult things to do for leaders is self-evaluation. I like to get by myself once a month. At the end of the month, I like to reflect on the month, the week, the days, and I like to write a list of all the areas that I feel like I need to improve. It's almost like you need a high level of self-awareness. A lot of times, like a lot of people, they're so scared for self-evaluation because they're so hard on themselves. So I'm very careful with this advice, because what I don't want people to do is sit down and trash themselves for an hour and make themselves feel really bad. You just have to have the ability to take a step back, look at it and be like, all right, what are some areas I need to improve on? And make a list. I need more patience. I need to be more empathetic. There's a couple things that maybe I said wrong. And I do this with my parenting skills, with my relationship. Like, what are some things that I think I could get better at? And then what I do is I ask my mentors, what are my blind spots? Kalina, what are my blind spots? What do you see as my leader? What are 2 or 3 things that you see in me that maybe I don't see in myself, good and bad? Let's start with this. What are 3 things that you see in me that are great things that I have? What are the reasons you think I'm going to be successful? Oh, girl, your ability to connect with people, and you show up and your energy, and you're thinking, man, yeah, okay. Yes, you know what? I don't give myself enough credit. Okay, yes, thank you for the reminder. So what are some blind spot? What are some things you do really, really great? But what are 2 or 3 things that I need to work on? Well, listen, you make excuses sometimes. Okay? You make excuses once in a while. What else? Some days you're up, some days you're down, right? So just consistency. Okay, those are 2 things that I can take away. So just having the ability and the openness to work on things that you need to improve on, but at the same time going to those same leaders and being like, hey, can you remind me 3 or 4 reasons why I'm going to win here? What is it about me that you think could make me special here? And let them tell you what they see, right? And chances are what they see in you are what you see in yourself. So it's going to confirm how you're feeling, which is going to be like, okay, good, I can win. But then you always got to be working on 1 or 2 things. So I'd recommend that. Openness for feedback is key. Yeah. And I mean, like I said, you're surrounded by unbelievable people, right? Whether it's Lori or Kendra or Victoria, you just got great people around you. But if you want to be a leader, you have to learn to ask good questions. And those are really good. And I mean, what you're asking me here today is great questions. So I already know you have the capacity, but you want to continue that with them. And then you grow from there. If you like this training, make sure to watch this next one because I know you're going to love it.